All right, so I'm excited because we're going to be having a conversation with someone who is absolutely crushing it on Amazon, who's actually someone who's a listener who I think actually might have been listening even before I hit record on the podcast when I just had the YouTube channel. So super excited to bring on Shannon Schewe, who's a multiple seven-figure seller on her way to seven figures, and she's in the six-figure per month club. So Shannon, super excited to have you on.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Yeah, so this is going to be a lot of fun. So you and I have been kind of corresponding back and forth for a while. And we can get into all of that, kind of some of the things we've chatted about back and forth with. But before we do that, just help everybody get a little bit of context. Who is Shannon and how did she get into e-commerce?
Well, I got into e-commerce accidentally. I used to work at a hospital, and when I had kids, I worked part-time. My babies were going off to grammar school. I, kind of knew I had to go back to work.
Right.
At the same time, both of my parents got ill, and I ended up having to liquidate their estate.
Oh, wow.
And they collected everything. So I found lots of collectibles, and I started selling them on eBay to help pay for their help and everything they needed.
Yeah.
And I ended up searching Facebook Marketplace and buying more. My first thing I sold was model cars.
Okay.
Vintage model cars.
Uh-huh.
I could drive an hour and buy 500 model cars. And
oh, wow.
Which is so
you're buying like lots of model cars, like several
model cars from somebody who collected them and just their kids wanted to get rid of them all. And I would buy 500 at a time, and I sold model cars on eBay. And a neighbor of mine introduced me to a friend of his who we went to high school with, who sold private label on Amazon. And I was like, I can do that. And at that time, I was sick of model cars because they're dusty and they're dirty and they're one-offs.
Right.
So I learned all about private label. I didn't know anything about FBA. I didn't know anything about private label. I studied it like I was going back to college and watched every video I could get my hands on. I took one course, which was very good. And then I launched my first product. Kind of a flop. Whose isn't? But I used it as, I was thinking it as an educational tool. I learned shipping. I learned everything. And then my second product was more of something my son needed, like a need-based product. And I went, I could find something better than what's on the market. So my second product led me into my third, fourth, fifth, and sixth product very easily.
Okay.
And sales picked up, and it kind of, kept turning the wheel. And now I have about 100 SKUs.
Oh, wow. So are they pretty much, for the most part, in the same niche, or are you kind of doing completely independent things?
I own two different brands.
Okay.
And they are in two very different niches. And I guess they're both kind of passions, but kind of just things that I saw need in the market. And I went, I can do that. And so yeah, they're two very different brands, but I love them both. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Well, awesome. Okay, so basically, you were flipping stuff online, and you realized this is great, but it's not scalable because you're getting a bunch of dusty models, which I could imagine. Like somebody makes a model Corvette, and then 20 years later, they take it off the shelf, and how much dust might be on there, or even if they dusted it, still around the tires and stuff like that. I can imagine all these crevices. So you said enough with this, but you got the bug for e-commerce and said, basically, this can be done. Is that a fair kind of understanding?
Yeah. I didn't even know this world existed.
Yeah, you and pretty much everyone listening to this, we were all kind of had that moment where wait, huh? So for me, it was, I was just had one of those days at work where I was like, I got to do something different. And I ended up finding Scott Volker's podcast, which he doesn't talk about Amazon as much anymore, but at the time that was like his focus, and it was like, I got to do something like this. And so that's interesting that you basically started a product and it didn't work. So what did that make you feel like when the first one didn't work out the way you hoped?
I mean, I was really disappointed, but like I got into analysis paralysis.
Okay.
I had studied everything so long that when I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to be stuck here. I'm going to be stuck here forever. So let's just go with it. This is a product, it sells. The problem was it was a Me Too product. So I couldn't differentiate it. I couldn't make it any different than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the reason why it just, it didn't sell. I mean, I've sold out, but it took a long time.
Right.
I didn't make a lot of money on it. I didn't lose money on it, but I didn't make a lot of money on it. So then my second product and everything since then, I really tried to make sure it's different from what's out there. It's whether it be something that's included with it that makes it different, or it's not the same. You really can't compare anything I sell to something that's out there right now.
Well, that's good, because I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong is, I feel like, well, I don't really know as much about what's on YouTube ads anymore because I ended up upgrading to YouTube Premium because my daughter didn't want to watch the political ads anymore. This was around October when the U.S. political system was in full swing. And so I kind of enjoyed not having it, but I do remember, and I still know people who watch YouTube say it's still like, if you're kind of in the world of, they think you're interested in FBA, you get bombarded with ads for courses. And I think what's sexy is quick, easy, 100 sales a day. And so all these people kind of taught to find Me Too products where it's like, there's all these like back end things they're probably not realizing they should be doing, differentiating the product enough, really marketing it, that a lot of these, products are kind of, to your point, Me Too products where it's just all the same. And so if you're a customer and you look up, whatever kind of widget, and then all you see is a bunch of products that look the same, the one that's probably has the bestseller ranking is probably just doing the most giveaways, so that just doesn't work. So what have you found works to differentiate products?
We do two things. The first thing we did was actually my husband's idea.
Okay.
Packaging. So it seems like such a simple thing, but our packaging is actually, so it's in a poly bag because that's Amazon requirements, but the actual packaging on the product is a reusable item. People can use it to wash the item. People can use it to store other things in it. I mean, it's really differentiates us from everybody else who sells it just folded in a poly bag. Ours is in a bag that you can reuse. And it's kind of become one of our trademark things. And it really makes it, I think, a more upscale product. And then the other thing we do with a whole kind of different line is we bundle it. It was, it's two different products. There's color variations, all that, but nobody bundles them together. And we were the first ones to do that. And it makes it like a complete set. It's something that you don't have to shop around for both of them. They're all right there. So
I love that. So, and you're not, just so everyone understands, you're not talking about virtual bundles. You mean like take product A and product B, bundle them together to create product C, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's such the way to go. And I think that's such an underrated strategy. And I do that a lot myself with my products because sometimes the people like the two together. In fact, oftentimes Amazon will even tell you, the person bought this also bought that. That's a clue right there. You should even just take a handful of them, put them together, even if it's just in a poly bag, take A and B together and make them their own SKU. And then now you basically have more virtual shelf space, like there is a reason Coca-Cola spends so much money and Pepsi-Cola creating, different sizes and different quantity packs and different flavors. And all these brands that you don't even realize necessarily are owned by Coke or Pepsi, because they want to just take up as much shelf space as possible, so that when you're looking down that aisle, that's what you see. Now, in our case, it's not an aisle, it's people looking for keywords, but you're more likely to be found for some obscure keyword, or people that maybe wouldn't have bought your original product, but they like the concept of getting two together. And sometimes you can even end up with more profit if you discount it, because you're not paying for two fulfillment fees.
Yes. Yeah. So we have tried virtual bundles, but we find that regular bundles, like good old fashioned bundles, work a lot better.
Yeah, exactly. And I've yet to hear anyone really give a great success story on virtual bundles, just because I don't even know that the algorithm even likes it. And I think maybe the virtual bundle team isn't like, in the same political realm within the Amazon organization as the algorithm team or something like that, the algorithm bundle team or something. I'm maybe just making that up.
I think the problem with virtual bundles is, so I sell a certain product and it comes in two different sizes. And often people want to buy both sizes. So I have, size A, size B, and then I used to do a physical bundle of size C. Well, then I started into virtual bundles, but the virtual bundle doesn't appear as a variation. It appears down below your listing, so people miss it. And I sell more, so I stopped. This product kind of slows down in January, so I stopped doing the physical bundles, and I just started merchant fulfilling the physical bundles, kind of to help improve my score a little bit, have less inventory at Amazon. I sell more merchant fulfilled bundles than I do the virtual bundles. Same exact price.
Really interesting. And
because
you're merchant fulfilling these.
Yeah, I'm merchant fulfilling it.
Okay.
Just because I have too much inventory at Amazon. I felt like I should work on that IPI score. So I was like, I'm not going to send any more real bundles in. They can do the virtual bundle. But I left the merchant fulfilled listing active, and I fulfill more merchant fulfilled than virtual bundles. Even
with basically the same product.
Same exact product.
Okay, that's interesting. So that's interesting. We're not even saying it's FBA, but FBM, you're able to do that, doing as merchant and not fulfilled by Amazon. Okay. Well, that's interesting.
If Amazon's listening, they should have the virtual bundle be as a variation of the list. Then it would kill.
Right, exactly. And it's actually to Amazon's benefit, because they're charging us as the seller for two fulfillment fees, even though we know they're just putting the two things into a box.
Right.
It's all going to probably go in the same box to the customer. So that's interesting. That's so interesting. I'll have to try that with some of mine, because I have some bundles that really don't move very well, but I could see if I make it merchant, now it's not affecting my inventory, because as those of us listening probably are familiar, at the time we're recording this, I think it was just this past Friday, they announced which everyone thought was so exciting, it's no longer on a per SKU basis of what you're able to send in. But it's still per account. So you're still threading the needle. You're just threading it from the other angle, basically. So that could be a way to save on some units that are in stock. So who does your fulfilling?
Me.
Okay, so literally order comes in and you go out to your shelf and grab it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, how many orders a day are you having to fulfill this way?
I probably fulfill about 20 orders a day. 20
orders a day is pretty hefty to be doing on your own. Have you thought about getting a 3PL to do it? Like they could probably just do the same process you're doing?
Yes and no. We're really trying to run a tight ship as we can. Mm-hmm. My huge focus is on profits. So we're trying to be as profitable as possible. So I have 2 teenage children, and they know how to bundle products. They know where. So I keep limited inventory in the house, enough to do like a week's worth, and then everything else is at a warehouse. Mm-hmm. and they know, I'll yell out, okay, it's bundling time, or, it's order fulfillment time. And
Right.
they can go and collect what I need. And I just print up the labels, and I check the orders, and we pack and go.
Okay, gotcha. So you have the opportunity to teach responsibility to your kids, and essentially you have free or inexpensive labor.
Oh, it's not free.
Oh, it's not free. Gotcha.
Nothing's free in this world.
No. But I'm sure it's probably less expensive than, if you got unionized warehouse labor or something like that.
I'm sure it is much less expensive than union labor.
Gotcha. That's interesting. My kids, I do have to pay them sometimes for helping me with stuff. It's usually like $5 an hour, which is, I am, for the record, their father, and I could, have them do chores around the house and not pay them. So at least I'm giving them something. But they think my 6-year-old thinks it's great. And the amount of work that they sometimes do, I usually just kind of give them credit for doing something, because more it's about teaching responsibility. I'm sure you're probably teaching them responsibility with this too. So that's fascinating. Okay, so you've got folks to do it, to do that for you. So at least it's not you necessarily having to do all the work. But you're doing about 20 units a day. So that's interesting. So are your products fairly seasonal, or are they steady throughout the year?
That's been an interesting thing this year. So normally I have 2 different brands, and they're both seasonal and they're opposite seasons. So it works out really nicely. We picked our second brand based on that.
Mm-hmm.
But this year, seasons kind of went out the window with one of my brands. Normally, about January 15th, January 30th, I take a big slowdown.
Okay.
And that didn't happen this year. And I blame it on COVID. As we blame everything on COVID. I think people were finally able to do these things. So actually sales were higher in January, February than they were in December.
Wow.
So it was an interesting experience for us. It was shocking for us, and we were not prepared inventory wise. So
yeah, it's sometimes when you get caught off guard like that, and that's a rough time to get caught off guard because it's right after the holidays. And I ended up having a much better holiday season, pretty much in all marketplaces for Amazon that I'm selling it, than I expected. And some of them, like, I'm just now replenishing some relatively popular products because of that. And it's one of those things that people think like, increase in sales is great, and sometimes it is, and other times it creates its own problems. But it's generally good problems to have. So before we hit record, you were saying that there was a milestone actually this January as far as a sales goal you've been looking to achieve.
Yeah, January was our first month over 100 grand for sales. So we were very excited about that. That's
awesome. And is that just on Amazon, just in the US, or is that total business wise?
No, that's just on Amazon and just in the US. So that doesn't include Canada. We sell on eBay. We sell on our own website. We also do wholesale to some small boutique stores too. So.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I'd like to dive into how you're selling wholesale and managing that here in a moment. But I just want to take a moment before we do that and just congratulate you on hitting that 6-figure mark. I remember the first time I hit 6 figures. Like, for me, it was the holiday season. Now, my products tend to be very giftable, so that is always my peak season. But that is incredible that you did that in January, right after the holidays. So you think even if that's not your season, the holiday season is not necessarily your season, you still get the bump enough that you'd see a fall off in January.
We were close in December, so close that it hurt, but January pushed us over the edge.
That is phenomenal. That's phenomenal. So so you hit that 6-figure mark, and what it was just like. Did you celebrate? Did you do something, or just say, all right, now the goal is higher?
Well, being a seller on Amazon and a small business owner, like, I don't tell my friends, hey, I hit six figures. Like,
right.
it's just not something you share.
Right, because they don't understand even what that means.
They don't understand that. And I don't post those things on Facebook because, I don't know, I don't post a lot on Facebook within, groups or anything. But I did celebrate by sending that information to my mentor, the guy who started me, who originally I watched his videos to get started in it. And I've been training with him. So I sent him, a message saying, look what I've done. And he was so excited. And that was exciting to share it with somebody who understands.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And the fact, again, I'm just amazed that this is not during the holiday season. That this is, and you said this is normally a drop-off time for at least one of your brands.
We hit like the middle of January, the end of January, and I always call it seasonal affective disorder. The sales.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like you just kind of know, like, okay, like I get real excited, like, okay, this is going to be a really good year. Like this first couple of weeks of January, then I realize, oh wait, all those gift cards people got are starting to run out. So I think that's part of it. But it sounds like for you, it just kind of kept going. So we awesome.
Really have kept going, and now we're into spring, and we're excited, and we're keeping it up. So we just need a whole bunch of inventory that's on boats to get here.
It's like, come on, go faster. Move that boat along. So, but it's not going through the Suez Canal, is it?
No. I think it's coming in someplace near Portland. And I send messages to the freight forwarder on a every other day basis. So is there anything?
I just wanted to check. Do you have anything? That's awesome. All right, cool. So in addition to Amazon in the US, you're selling on Amazon in Canada, and you're selling eBay, wholesale, and your own website. So we'll dive into that a little bit more. But I think the way you and I got connected was you were selling on Amazon is when you were looking to get settled in Canada. Is that correct?
Yes. When I wanted to sell in Canada, because it just seemed like the easiest of the marketplaces to expand into. I, scoured the web, looked for information, and I came across your YouTube videos, and they were so on the dot. Like, here's the simple instructions, like every detail. Get the business number, this is what you need to do. And I had done all that, and by the time I contacted my local freight forwarder, and I said, okay, I need to ship to Canada now. She's like, well, you need a business number. I'm like, I already got it. I'm like, I already got it. So I felt like I was really prepared to go into Canada, and I was ready to do it. So we've been doing Canada for a year and a half now.
Well, cool. Well, I'm glad my video was helpful. We'll link to that in the show notes for anyone listening who wants to check it out. But I'm glad that was helpful for you. And it's always fun to hear, because we were talking about before we hit record that, sometimes when you're creating these videos, you don't know, which videos are going to be more popular than others, what's going to be more helpful for people. So it's super exciting to hear that video was helpful for you. So what has Canada been like results wise for you compared to other marketplaces?
Canada is about 10% of the US for sales wise.
Okay.
It just is. It should be, I think, a better market, but I get about 10% of my sales there. Recent COVID hits over there this month in Canada was not great. They had some fulfillment center closures. But again, about 10% in Canada is of the US is what we do there. Yeah.
Generally for folks, it tends to be in the 10 to 20% range. And, for the amount of work they're doing, or for the amount of work generally people are doing in Canada, it's worth doing. So, you didn't have to find a new product. You didn't necessarily have to find a new fulfillment center, or, you didn't have to, like, for example, let's go the other route. So with eBay, you have to figure out other ways to fulfill, and you have to figure out new terms of service. Customers are expecting things differently. The way you write listings might be a little different on eBay. So out of curiosity, what are your sales like on eBay compared to Amazon in Canada?
Oh, eBay's like 1% of Amazon.
What about your own website?
Probably 1% of Amazon. We just launched our website. We launched a Shopify store in I think it was Black Friday. It actually went live. So it's still a new thing for us. So every time I actually do get an order, I'm like, oh, what's this? I'm so excited. But no, our website is a very new thing, and we have not done a lot of things we need to do to get it moving more. But I like the fact that when somebody's shopping on Amazon and they want to kind of go, like, I even do this myself. I go off of Amazon to check the brand name. Like, what else do they sell? Da, da, da. Now, when you go off Amazon and you look at our brand, it brings that level of assuredness that, they have all these other products. And, it's not like I'm selling screwdrivers and cell phone cases.
Right. There's a cohesiveness to the brand.
Screwdrivers and cell phone cases, you're like, what?
Right.
But I'm selling everything for one niche. I mean, you can get anything you want. There's some education about the products in there. So that's mainly why we did it. We don't expect, that to be our main source of sales. Maybe in another year or two, we'll work more on that, but it's up and it's moving and it looks great.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's I think really more than anything, the nice thing about having your own store is that it allows you to kind of plant your flag. And to your point, sometimes people will look you up and things of that nature. Or if they really want a certain product, I find if I'm out on Amazon, sometimes we'll get a few extra sales. But I still probably get a handful of sales a month on a good month on my website, so it's like, I could probably try to dial in Google shopping ads or something like that, but I just never quite gotten around to it because it's a lot of work to figure all these things out, to optimize it. There's a lot of setup involved on your own store. And I found, especially early on in my e-commerce career, I'd spend all this time trying to figure out these different platforms. And then I was going into other marketplaces and finding the results compared to the effort spent was so much easier, especially when once you're up and running, like in Canada, like how much effort do you spend on it now?
Not very much. I spend some time on PPC and I do, shipments to Amazon of inventory once a month for Canada.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, I don't spend anywhere near as much. Like I probably optimize my PPC in Canada, like really dialing it in a handful of times a year. In fact, oftentimes I do it and from whatever the last time I was, a lot of the reports, you get 60 days worth of data. I can't even go back as much time as it's been since maybe it's been 90 days since the last time I optimized it. So it's like, I can't even get good data for that amount of time because I've exhausted that window. And so, and things tend to work pretty well. Now, granted, with anything, there's always those challenges. Like in Canada, there was just, as you're, talking about, there's some inventory challenges. The Brampton, Ontario fulfillment center, which is one of their major fulfillment centers, because they don't really have all that many fulfillment centers in Canada, but one of the big ones closed down and was pretty much like the government just said, you're closed for 2 weeks, and Amazon couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't go in there and move stuff because, a handful of people or whatever the case was had COVID. So, that happens. And sometimes people say, well, should that prevent me from selling in Canada? So what would be your thoughts if someone said, should I let that, prevent me from going into Canada?
No, because that could happen any U.S. I mean, we've had U.S. fulfillment centers with fires and things like that. So
right.
It could be worse. I mean, closed for 2 weeks, didn't damage any of my inventory. To me, Canada, you're right. It's so easy to do. Once you get in and you figure out the whole tax thing, the inventory thing, I probably spend half a day every month, on PPC and inventory, and that's it. And then I'm done for the month. So I find Canada very worthwhile for the amount of effort it takes.
How would you describe your margins there compared to your U.S. margins, if you don't mind me asking?
I try to keep them the same.
Okay.
So my margins are the same. My prices are higher in Canada due to the GXT, and just the cost of shipping into Canada is a little higher than, say, shipping to my local fulfillment center. My one thing with Canada is in the US, all of our returns can be sold as like open box and things like that.
Mm.
And whereas in Canada, any returns that are unfulfillable just get right now. Some of them get donated to. I found a local charity in Canada that I give them to.
Oh, nice.
But then certain products they don't want, and they end up getting destroyed.
Gotcha. So that is one of the kind of heartbreaking things. I know for a lot of people, like I'm disposing of my products. I mean, you could find somebody to process them for you, but sometimes it's like, what is the cost of that versus, what?
We looked into that, but the cost was really not very profitable. Like it wasn't worth it. So we find donating them and destroying them works fine.
Yeah, and just kind of for a quick little exercise people can do in their head. So let's just say you have a 4% return rate, and let's say half of those are unfulfillable. Well, just incorporate that into your costs because, to your point, you try to keep the margins about the same because people in Canada tend to pay more for stuff. And it's just anecdotally what people have told me over the years that have lived in Canada, because either they live in Vancouver, which I saw last year, there was an article in Business Insider that had cost of living ranking for cities. Hong Kong was number 1. Vancouver was number 2. Wow. And Montreal and Toronto, I think, are pretty much up there with San Francisco and New York type, expensive places to live. So people are just used to paying more for things. Or what's also been described to me is people might live out in kind of, we'll just say, for lack of a better word, the boondocks. Like, they're not close to a big city, because Canada is about the population of California, but landmass is the second largest country in the world. And so some people are far away from stores, or they can go on their phone, click a couple buttons, and stuff magically arrives on their doorstep. So they're willing to pay a little extra for it. So that can sometimes pay for some of those additional costs. Now, one of the things I've kind of come to realize is if I have the same margins at all said and done in 2 different countries, chances are I'm actually profiting more, because I have certain fixed costs like software tools and all these other things that I'm not incrementally paying for when I go into other marketplaces. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. Now, have you thought about going into Europe?
It's on my to-do list. I would like to do it. It's the next step for us.
Yeah, I definitely would look into it. Canada, I think, is the great first stop after the US, because it's relatively simple. Like, dealing with the Canadian government is very easy, but sometimes when you're dealing with, I won't mention names of other countries, let's just say certain ones across the pond, the governments can be a little bit more challenging to deal with. There's just more rules. But with that being said, in the UK, I was talking to somebody earlier today, over the trailing 30 days, my UK sales were a little more than half of what my US sales were.
Wow.
Which is pretty phenomenal. Now, that's an outlier, and there's a couple little disclaimers I want to give to that. Like, we can't guarantee someone's going to get 10% in Canada or 20% in the UK. You only know these things if you try it. But in the UK, I had been fully in stock for pretty much the last 30 days, whereas in the US, I've been playing catch up for a while. So it's not quite apples to apples. But definitely UK, I would suggest taking a look at, because you would, at minimum, I would think, do at least the same level of sales you're doing in Canada, if not higher.
UK will be our next area that we expand into. We just haven't done it yet. One of those things, you can only do so much. Right,
exactly. At the end of the day, some of these things are shiny objects. So what are your focuses as you're moving ahead? Like, what are you doing to grow and just manage it all?
So we're doing 2 things right now. Like, I always say the spring is when because you're coming off of the fourth quarter, first quarter's over, spring is like product development time. So we actually have 1, 2, 3 new products. One is all done and on a boat. One is in production, and one will be starting production next week. Oh, actually 4. So we have 4 new products.
Wow.
And I'm the queen of variations. So each product has up to 10 variations. So this could be a total of about 40 SKUs coming out of these. We do lots of colors and sizes.
Okay.
So we're really excited that these products will help us bump into that, bigger sales volume that we want. So that's what a lot of our focus has been on lately. And then the other one is inventory. We are running out of stock of everything because the seasons on our seasonality products weren't their normal seasons this year. I blame it on COVID, but some seasons were supposed to end and the products just kept selling and kept selling and kept selling. And production times in China, where I used to get like 40 days, I'm now getting 60 to 90 days on some of my products. So that was a shocker when I went to order one of our major products and he's like, it'll be about 70 to 90 days. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. And then again, shipping is just a huge problem right now that we used to airship some small and light products that were light and they were easy, and we'd order them in small quantities and they just airship them. And that's just out the window this year. So now we're having to order larger quantities and I just did 4 suppliers and I timed it all perfectly so that we could ship a 20-foot container instead of 4 little bitty, order. Right. And that helped on our shipping a lot.
Okay. Gotcha. That definitely does sound like a good tip there to try, if possible, to consolidate some of those shipments.
Really good freight forwarder for that.
Yeah, you need a good freight forwarder, and you really got to trust your factories that one of them is not going to be delayed 3 weeks.
Yes.
Yes. Good. All right. So this has been fascinating. So for someone who's listening to this, who's trying to get to where Shannon is now, what advice would you have for them?
At one point, you have to sink or swim. You just got to give it a try. Don't expect to make money your first product or 2. This isn't a quick rich scheme. You have to have patience. You have to differentiate your product, and you just got to give it a try. I got stuck in the whole analysis paralysis for a long time. I mean, I was learning. I knew everything there was to know, except for I had never actually done it. And you have to learn by doing it. So,
that's excellent.
But just do it.
That's such excellent advice. It really is, because I have found there are people who it's not just analysis paralysis sometimes starting, it's analysis sometimes paralysis doing things in their business once they've been up and running for a while. So kudos to you, because you watched the one YouTube video I did on expanding into Canada. But I can tell you there's people that have been following me that have been watching probably the same video for when you first watched it, and they're still not there yet. And they have products for sale. Like, there's no reason they couldn't have done it by now. So it's definitely one of those things that it is worth taking the investment of time or getting help or whatever the case is to move forward and move ahead, because time is not our friend sometimes. It's going to just keep marching on whether we like it or not.
I agree.
Well, awesome. So that is phenomenal advice. Just keep taking action. And, I also give you credit too, because I can see you're not getting caught up in shiny object syndrome either, that you're doing the right mix of taking action, but not just taking action for the sake of running around with your head cut off type of thing. Sounds like you're taking very intentional action.
We are trying to. I attended the Canton Fair 2 years ago. 2 years ago last week, and that was an area where you could really get shiny objects in.
Oh, I bet.
Canton Fair, and you could, stare at everything, and you're like, "Oh, I want to sell this.
Well, I could sell this. I could sell this. Yeah.
Whoa, look at the profits on this one. Look at it." But I really had to take a step back and say, what do I want to sell? What can I make different? Because anything at that fair is going to be sold by, 100 different sellers. So what looks interesting? What can I change? What can I make it different or better?
That's awesome. That's a great way to look at what can I do to make it better. So awesome. Well, I appreciate having you on. This has been a great conversation, and I wish you the best as you continue on.
Thank you. And I look forward to meeting you in person someday, not just on Zoom or, through text messages and things like that. So
I hope so too. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Shannon.
All right. Thank you.